Hi, everyone. This is Jason Bomar with LA Networks. I'm the Chief Network Architect here. Thanks for joining us today. I appreciate everyone taking the time. A couple of quick housekeeping items. This is a live stream, so any way that you happen to be listening to it, that's great. Please feel free to interact. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat, and we will do our best to answer them. We may either answer them in line or we'll pause and I can take a moment. If you'd like to follow up in any way and see possibly a demo of this, please reach out to anyone at LA Networks or just ask in the chat and we can go ahead and take care of that for you. So this should be live on Facebook, YouTube, and via our website, Twitch. If you do sign in, please sign our guest book and leave some feedback so that we understand what kind of content you might like to see in the future, what works and what doesn't. We're always looking for that kind of feedback. So let's go ahead and roll right into it. Today we're going to be talking about Cisco's Sassy architecture. So we'll have a quick introduction to what Sassy is. We'll look specifically at how Cisco addresses Sassy. We'll talk about 2 use cases, and then we'll have a quick wrap up. So Sassy is a pretty new term, and it's pronounced Sassy, but it just stands for Secure Access Service Edge. It was just invented in 2019 by Gartner. They kind of came out with a bit of a provocative statement that the enterprise perimeter is no longer a location. Rather, it is a set of dynamic edge capabilities delivered when needed as a service from the cloud. And there's a lot in there. But the key things is they're saying it's no longer a single location. Rather, it's kind of more of a mobile location. And we've seen this a lot through this pandemic and everything. And that security has to be kind of baked into our network edge kind of from the get-go, and it should be served up from the cloud. In a different report, same year though, Gartner did mark Cisco as a high probability bet for winning with Sassy, just because of their native capabilities within things like WAN edge, switching, firewalling, security, VPNs, etc. And we'll kind of go through that and how Cisco addresses each of these concerns. So what was Gartner really talking about when they talk about it's no longer a location, but kind of a mobile edge? Well, they talked about that we kind of have this evolving perimeter where, you know, our users have never been more widely scattered. They could be working from home. They could be working from the road. Our users may not be people. They may be devices, IoT devices. I work an awful lot in medical manufacturing, and this plays a big role over in that space, for example, where your user may be something like a temperature gauge or something like that, or a centrifuge. And our apps have done the same thing. 20 years ago, all of our apps lived in a data center, or maybe if we were large enough, in a couple of data centers. But now our apps continue to live in those data centers. They also live in software clouds like Office 365, Salesforce, etc. Or they might live in infrastructure clouds, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. Most likely, we have users on one side and apps on the other, and they live in all these places, right? And that's really what they mean by the edge is no longer a location. It's more mobile than that, right? Our edge is no longer at a specific place. It's wherever we need to access our apps from. So they went on to kind of quantify that a little bit with some of the challenges, right, with this evolving edge. And that is specifically that the network and the security teams are struggling. They're struggling to connect and protect users. They're struggling to adapt to the evolving threat vectors. And of course, we've never seen this grow faster than it's growing now until next week when it grows even faster than it's growing now. It's threat vectors are just ramping up. And then lastly, because they're so overwhelmed, these two teams are so overwhelmed with the other towers, they're also struggling to work together efficiently, right? It's not that they don't want to work together, it's that they are so busy working within their silos, they just don't have a lot of time to work outside their silos and make sure that they understand what the other group is doing. So Cisco's architecture on this, their take on this is they break it into three kind of components: connect, control, and converge. I tend to think of this kind of as almost like a formula: connect plus control equals converge, but we'll kind of break these down and what do they really mean by these three terms. So when we talk about connect, we're really talking about connecting that underlying infrastructure, regardless of whether it's a home office, a branch office, a mobile device, regardless of whether it's in a public cloud or a private cloud or a software cloud. It's about connecting all those users to all those applications, regardless of where they happen to be. So whether you're going over an MPLS or a layer 2 WAN or direct internet access, regardless of whether you're coming from home or like myself today, I'm in the office, or you're working on a mobile phone, and regardless of where you're going, you should have seamless connectivity. This shouldn't be a burden to your clients or to your users. It should be something that's dealt with natively within the solution itself. And that's what we mean by connect. So for example, and it doesn't have to be this way, we'll go into a couple of different use cases here, but it could be Cisco SD-Wan, and Cisco often leads connect with SD-Wan. Why do they lead oftentimes with SD-Wan? Well, it's a strength for them, right? They are the largest SD-Wan solution provider, over 30,000 customers. Gartner puts them as a leader in the Magic Quadrant. 70% of the Fortune 100 have done it. It works with both of their SD-WAN solutions, whether you're on Cisco SD-WAN or whether you're on Meraki SD-WAN. The Sassy Connect part of the architecture integrates with both, and it integrates in a very similar architecture, right? I mean, the menus might look a little bit different, but the steps are about the same. And if you would like to follow up with a demo, we can kind of show you what those steps look like on either platform. So when we talk about control, that's kind of that second pillar. What do we mean by control? Well, control, if connect is all about the network, control is all about security, really. And Sassy is kind of merging those network and security teams together so that they're working kind of in under one roof, right? So this is, how do I ensure that once I'm connected securely. I'm only accessing the things I should be able to access. I have analytics that's showing I'm not doing anything outside of my governance policy and so forth. And remember from the Sassy definition that this should be delivered as a service from the cloud, because this is going to play a big role in this control line. We're going to talk a lot about cloud security here. So the first pillar for cloud security would be Cisco Umbrella. And Cisco acquired OpenDNS, I think, in 2015. At the time, it was just a DNS security solution for the most part. However, Cisco's kind of continued to evolve it over the last half a decade, right? And so it does still have the DNS layer security features, but it also has a secure web gateway. It has cloud firewall. It has CASB integration, interactive threat intelligence. And one of the nice things with Umbrella is it's both on and off network, right? So my LA Networks laptop that I'm working from today I happen to be in the office, so I'm on net, and it's using the Cisco Umbrella client to ensure that all of my cloud traffic is properly inspected. However, if I take my laptop and I bring it home and I'm no longer connected to the LA Networks network, I'm still actually protected by Umbrella. That client is still running to ensure that I have protection 24/7, regardless of where I'm at. And in the demo, we're not doing the demo today, but if you'd like a demo, we can schedule one. We do go over how to ensure or how to demo things like the secure web gateway, the cloud delivered firewall, and so forth. I also want to call out real quick observability, which is kind of the third leg of the Sassy solution. Observability can come in a number of products. The two that I've kind of highlighted here are Cisco Securex and Thousand Eyes. So if you're not familiar with it, Cisco Securex is kind of like a threat aggregator and API integrator. So it takes your different security products, whether they're Cisco or other complementary or even competitive products, and brings it into a single dashboard. And as long as you own some Cisco security, you have access to Securex. It's not something extra that you buy. It's something that you've already bought when you buy Cisco security. Okay. And then Thousand Eyes is kind of an application visibility regardless of where your applications live. If your applications happen to live in a data center, you have visibility into the network connections to that data center. If they happen to live in a cloud, you have network visibility into that cloud, including public clouds like Salesforce or Office 365 or AWS, Azure, etc. And if you'd like a demo of either of these, it's kind of separate from the Sassy demo, but that's also something that we could help with. The second part of control would be Duo. So the Umbrella component is inspecting the traffic that's going to and from the cloud. Duo is protecting every user and every device and every application. It's providing things like multi-factor authentication, device posture and health. When we talk zero trust network access or least privileged access, we're really talking Duo, right? Continuous verification, and it has those behavior analytics I mentioned earlier as well, right? So Duo is also an acquisition, I think in maybe 2016 or 2017, a little bit after Umbrella. And they, and again, they continued kind of evolving this. And so you have both Duo and you have Umbrella for your control components, and they're all cloud-based, right? That's the nice thing. These are cloud-based. So let's talk a little bit about the converge pillar here, right? And I said before, I think of it as a formula. Connect plus control equals converge, and that's exactly what it is. Convergence is bringing those two other pillars together, right? So when we converge, we're taking all the network connectivity from the connect silo and adding in all the security and governance from the control silo into the converge one. So it kind of looks like this when we're converged. From a connect perspective, we could be talking about Cisco Sd-Wan or Meraki Sd-Wan, but as I mentioned, and we'll talk through this in a minute, you don't have to have Sd-Wan. You can also do this through remote access using something like AnyConnect with Duo, for example. And in fact, at LA Networks, at the height of the pandemic, when we were all working remote, this is exactly what we did. Is we gave everyone AnyConnect, we secured everything with Duo, and then we funneled it through over in the control pane, the cloud security of Umbrella, right? So when we converge this, it's a single offer that's an integrated solution. And as a reminder, we can kind of layer on things like observability with Thousand Eyes and Securex. And just as a reminder, Securex, it's nothing to buy there. It comes with the licenses you're getting from your security products anyway. And Thousand Eyes is a kind of a client-server measurement system for how the network's performing. It's actually one of the coolest products out there. Pretty fascinating way to kind of map out how you're connecting between your clients and your applications. Any questions so far on this before I go forward? Okay, We do have a question. Uh, do we need to buy and administer all of these things at once? Do I have to? Yeah, right. So that's a good question. Do I have to buy AnyConnect and Duo and SD-WAN and Umbrella? You know, no, you don't. In fact, what happens is you may already own some of these, and you could just start there. So, for example, we have a higher education customer of ours. They already owned Duo and they already owned Umbrella. And since they were doing remote work, we just integrated those. We didn't take on the SD-WAN portion of this because they were already all 100% remote. Instead, we just made sure that their Umbrella and their Duo was integrated in with their AnyConnect clients. So you don't have to eat the whole apple at once. You can take a bite at a time. Maybe you're already doing an SD-WAN project, and so that part's the easy part for you. And maybe the next part is taking a look at Umbrella, right? Which is, again, a cloud security service. So these aren't required to take, and do the whole thing at once. You can do this piecemeal, and since it's all API integrations, it's pretty seamless. You integrate and add the pieces that you need. Okay, we have another question here. And what if I already have some of these products? Do I need to rebuy them or do something like that? That's a great question. The answer is, generally speaking, no. If you already own these products, you typically don't need to rebuy anything. You may need to change license tiers on something. That higher education customer of ours that I mentioned, they did have to change tiers on their Duo. They had kind of one tier of Duo, and which totally worked. It wasn't a problem, but it was only integrating with their VPN solution. They wanted to also integrate it with things like Office 365 for MFA and SSO capabilities. They just had to up their license type for their users, but we didn't have to reinstall or reconfigure anything. And a lot of our clients that we've worked with don't even have to do that. They maybe just need to integrate these things, and we can absolutely work with you to just do the integrations if you have these components already. So any other questions? I think that's it right now. Okay. Let's talk about architecturally what this looks like, and this is kind of an important concept. So I mentioned earlier that we don't have to have SD-WAN. You could just do this for a remote worker. And this is what that kind of looks like. This is probably what most of us have spent the last 18 months working in some form or fashion in, right? You're working from home. You have some kind of a VPN connection. And you probably have, maybe not, but you may well have some kind of split tunneling sort of thing, so that if you're going to an internet service like Office 365, box.com, or something like that, you may go directly out your internet access. Or you may be going to something private on the inside of your network, in which case you may go across an IPsec tunnel that goes there, right? And that's exactly what we see here. I have my laptop at home. It's running Duo and it's running AnyConnect. When he needs to get to a private resource, I take my path through the IPsec tunnel. I hit my FTD or my VPN head end, and I get into that private resource, right? When I want to go to, say, Office 365, I don't send it back to my head end. Instead, I send it up through the internet, and the first thing it hits the Umbrella, and it takes a look at the DNS security. It takes a look at my secure web gateway policies, my cloud firewall, app intelligence, and it says, oh, you're going to Office 365. That's completely allowed. I'm going to go ahead and pass you over there. It sends me over to Office 365, actually proxies that connection over. Office 365 takes a look and says, oh, well, this is integrated with Duo. Let me send you a push notification to make sure that you have access to the data you need to have access to. I respond to the push notification. I'm signed into the application and I start working, right? Likewise, maybe I'm going to something just on the internet. I'm going up to YouTube to watch a video for training purposes. Well, that's not going to be integrated with Duo. So instead, it goes through the exact same Umbrella cloud. It still goes through, it checks the app aware inspection policies, the layer 7 firewalls. It says, oh, he's going to watch a training video. That's completely fine. If it shows that I'm going to Facebook and my policy has a no social media policy, it might block that and say, sorry, we don't allow social media at the company or something along those lines. So, so that's kind of what it works as for a secure remote worker. Let's take a look at SD-WAN. And the first thing to point out here is SD-WAN, it looks architecturally very similar to the previous slide, right? Same sort of concept. I have two tunnels. I have a tunnel that says, what do I do if I have a private connection? And I have a tunnel that says, what do I do if I have a public connection? So again, regardless of where your resources are connecting from and what applications they're connecting to and where those applications happen to be housed, you're covered either way. In the secure edge use case, if I'm trying to connect to something private, say back in my private data center or colo, I'm going to go across the SD-WAN fabric. Oh, it looks like we do have a quick question. Please go ahead, Joe. Right. Okay. What if we don't have any cloud apps? Is there a point to Sassy? That's a great question. So my first thing is, do you really feel that you don't have any cloud apps? A lot of times we think of cloud apps as that means I have to use Office 365 or I have to use Salesforce.com or something like that, or AWS. But honestly, a cloud app is any app that you utilize which is not housed in your own private data center, right, or colo space. So if, for example, you have an app that you use regularly off of the internet, whether that is something like Office 365 or it's Google Docs or something else, or hosted Exchange somewhere, that is a cloud app. Likewise, it's still pretty valuable to at least have the umbrella, even if your apps are not really cloud-based. The umbrella is at least doing interception and inspection of all your traffic going to and from any public network, right? So, you know, if you remember from maybe like a couple of years ago, the WannaCry ransomware virus that came out, it hit a lot of hospitals and healthcare institutions. If you happen to have had Umbrella, even without Umbrella being aware of the WannaCry ransomware attack, you were actually protected from the WannaCry ransomware attack. The reason is because Umbrella does a lot of DNS security, which involves domain names, and it realized, oh, this is interesting. There's this domain in Eastern Europe that just spun up a couple hours ago. It looks pretty sketchy. It does not have a very high reputation. I'm just not going to allow traffic to go there. So you could get infected, but not have it actually phone home, right? So it was kind of an interesting concept. So even if you don't have traditional cloud apps like Office 365 or Box.com or Salesforce or something like that, it's still pretty valuable to utilize the SASE capabilities that come inherent with things like Umbrella, Duo, and SD-WAN. So and do we have another question? Okay, I think we're good. So good questions today, everyone. Thank you very much. So kind of coming back to this, again, it's very similar. So from your client perspective, they're experiencing something pretty similar, whether they're on-prem or whether they're in a branch office or a headquarters or something else, right? The main difference being, if you're at a secure edge like this, when you're staying private, you're going across an SD-WAN fabric of some sort, right? So whether that's Meraki or whether that's Cisco SD-WAN, you're getting kind of the SD-WAN goodness. SD-WAN wouldn't make as much sense necessarily for a home user, but it works out pretty well in this kind of scenario. But you have a similar feel or experience for your clients. So that's mostly the overview, but I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about what the demo would look like if you'd like to do a demo. And again, please reach out. You can schedule one from our website, or you can reach out to sales@la-networks.com, or my email, which was at the beginning of the slide deck, and we can show it again in the chat, I believe. But what does the demo look like? Well, first of all, we kind of demonstrate what the API integration looks like. The demo is kind of a controlled environment. It typically uses SD-WAN with Umbrella. And so we'll kind of show what that API integration looks like. Then we'll walk through how to configure the SD-WAN side to integrate with Umbrella. We'll verify that all the tunnels come up. And then we'll configure a couple of policies. We'll configure a policy for web firewalling to ensure that we can't connect to any ports that we don't want people connecting to. And then we'll create an application level inspection policy that blocks things like social media. So that if I don't want people going on to Facebook, I can block that sort of thing. And then we actually demonstrate that the policies have indeed taken effect. So there's a kind of a pre-work step where we kind of demonstrate that I can do these things. Then we do the integration, then we configure the policies, and we move on and kind of show that, that indeed our policies are working. So it is a live demo, so we are at the mercy of the demo gods occasionally. But by and large, we've had really good luck with this demo. And if you'd like to see anything further, we can absolutely do that. I think that is most of what I had. So again, just kind of as a quick reminder, if you sign into the platform you're viewing this from, you can sign our guest book on our website. The nice thing there is you can leave us feedback. You can maybe suggest future content, other webinars you might like to see, and we'd be happy to do that. And you can also request from there to do one of these demos, or if you'd like to see a demo of something else, that's fine as well. We do quite a few of these. We're an engineering first company, so we're pretty happy to get hands-on with this. That being said, were there any other questions? Anyone on the panel? I think it looks like I answered them all. Okay, with that said, I want to thank everyone for their time, whether you're watching this right now in our live stream or you're maybe watching it in the future on a replay. I do appreciate your time. If you do have questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.